Jasmine is right. I am a longtime supporter of LAMP, and I'm so pleased to be here for this very special event. My two young daughters, who are now 8 and 10, actually spent a lot of time at LAMP's Early Years Center, and they have good memories of that. And I also have some memories going way back to the 1970s. When I was very young, I clearly remember my mom taking my brother and I for our first fluoride treatments. That was a big revolutionary thing at that time. And that was at LAMP. So my experience with LAMP goes back many, many years. And for the last decade or so, I've been very proud to MC the LAMP Awards of Merit. Yeah. So thank you, Jasmine. The theme this year is Reunion 40, connecting some of our founders and current and former board members to new generations of members. People like little Elizabeth. Where's little Elizabeth? The youngest, probably our youngest member, our up-and-coming member. And to the staff and the volunteers and all of the supporters. LAMP is planning a number of events in the months to come in the hope of reaching as many people as possible. And if you have any ideas for an event that you would like to see, please let us know. And as Jasmine mentioned, the time capsule, we're always also looking for ideas for that. And so we want to thank you for being here today to share this special day. We have neighbors, friends, community champions, former staff, former board members. We have moms and volunteers and students and business people. We have people from Humber College, the Toronto Professional Firefighters Association, and our other community organizations, the Mimico Lakeshore Community Network, Storefront Humber, Jobstart, Women's Habitat. We also have many others. If you haven't been mentioned, we appreciate you, and you're here to help us make a healthy, strong, and connected community. We would also like to thank all the wonderful people who sponsored a table today, helping us make this a sold-out event. And in fact, it was sold out well before the day, which is always nice to see. We'd also like to thank the Honorable Jean Augustine for joining us today. We look forward to hearing from her shortly. We're also very pleased to welcome our Member of Parliament, James Maloney. Peter Milchin. Peter and I go way back to City Hall days. And TDSB trustee Pamela Goff. Through stronger connections, we make our community a place where everyone belongs and where people have more control over their health and well-being. I'd now like to call upon LAMP Board Chair Jeffrey Squire to be the first to bring us greetings.
Hello everybody. I bring you greetings from the Board of Directors of LAMP. My name is Jeffrey Squire and I'm currently the Chair of the Board. I welcome all of you here and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today as we kickstart activities marking our as we kickstart activities marking our 40th anniversary. As you all know, LAMP has been at the forefront of community development and the delivery of quality primary health care for decades. We do this by working in close collaboration with our community partners, including Storefront Humber, Humber College, our friends at the mosque, and the Tibetan Community College, just to name a few. As a community-based organization, we would not have thrived without the dedication and commitment of people like you and the many individuals who volunteer and contribute valuable time and resources to making our organization a success. We honor and salute all of you who has contributed and continue to work toward improving the health and well-being of populations in South and Central Etobicoke, as well as East Mississauga. Today, we honor the former staff members and the current staff members who go well beyond the call of duty on the front lines and behind the scenes to increase access to quality healthcare and programs, services and activities that improve our quality of life. We are here today to pay tribute to all the friends of LAMP who work so hard to help our neighbors alleviate the complexities and difficulties imposed by poverty, addiction, mental health, trauma, loneliness, and other obstacles that get in the way of living a healthy and productive life. Each and every one of you in this room is making the world a better place, cultivating a spirit of humanity, compassion, equity, and providing leadership opportunities for children, youth, and adults to grow and flourish. Together, we will look after each other. It really takes a village. Everyone in this room, the people who created and worked for LAMP, the volunteers, our partners, and our staff today, are the reason why so many people live successful, happy, and healthy lives today. Their success is our success. Here's to another 40 years of innovation, social justice, equity, and improved health outcomes. With your support, our community will continue to thrive. Let's celebrate yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Together, we can continue to build a healthy community and a just society. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for being here to celebrate this important milestone with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeffrey. You and the board have a busy year ahead, but a fun year as well, I think. Up next, the Honorable Jean Augustine is a living legend, and we are so fortunate that she has represented Etobicoke Lakeshore so graciously for decades. In federal politics, as Ontario's Fairness Commissioner, and through her work with young women today. The Jean Augustine Centre for Young Women's Empowerment is already changing lives and creating pathways to success. Jean, would you kindly say a few words? I always look forward to hearing from you.
In the African fashion, we would say the village has assembled. The clan is here. Let's celebrate. We have food, we have smiles, we have good people who are doing great things. We've called together the Member of Parliament, we've called together the MPP, we've called together the school trustee, we've rang the bell for former members like Ruth Gray, Agnes Potts, Connie McAuliffe, who were all part of Etobicoke City Council at one point in time. We've called together the heads of organizations. We have the educators among us, especially Humber College, one, and others. And so the clan is assembled. We've assembled at a very special time to celebrate this 40th anniversary. And we're doing this with three things in mind, at least I am doing this with three things in mind. One, it's Black History Month in Canada. Two, we're celebrating the sesquicentennial of Canada, that is the 150th anniversary. My grandchildren is here, so I want to translate. Sesquicentennial means 150. And one of them said to me, you know, that's old. And I said, that's not old for a nation, because we have nations that are hundreds and hundreds of years old when we compare ourselves to the Europeans and some of the other places. So 150 is like the youth in the midst of that in that international setting. And thirdly, what did I say the first one was?
We're also
Okay. Black History Month, 150th anniversary. I'm 80 years old, you should remember. And thirdly, this is a decade that the United Nations has set apart as a decade for people of African descent. So I'm so very pleased to see a black man as the president of LAMP. So you have work to do, my brother, to ensure that the United Nations focus is kept in all of the work that we do in our community. I'm so very pleased, so very honored to have served as a member of parliament for Etobicoke Lakeshore, and so many of you who voted for me, especially the women. I was told that I got more votes from women than any other MP in Canada. So, the women in this room. At the same time, I think not only am I honored, but I'm also very pleased to support the work of all of you as you work in the community and support the work of LAMP. And to see the same faces coming back. We say the success of any organization is when you see the same faces showing up all of the time to support. And so I'm honored and pleased, very happy to be part of that celebration, and will, as we continue throughout the 40th anniversary celebrations, I hope to see many more of you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Jean. So happy to have you as part of the clan. And another member of the clan is our current Member of Parliament, James Maloney. Would you like to say?
Thank you very much. You want to know one of my biggest challenges as a new Member of Parliament for Etobicoke Lakeshore? Following in Jean's footsteps. So today should be no different. So Jean, thank you for everything you do. You know, I look around this room and I see leaders of so many great community organizations. Well, LAMP arrived in Etobicoke Lakeshore 40 years ago, which is also when I arrived in Etobicoke Lakeshore. Now, LAMP has contributed far more to this place than I have, but now as a Member of Parliament, I'm hoping to give back to the community and try to add some of the services that LAMP does. Now, one of the things I notice about all of these great organizations is that they put their organizations first. Their volunteers, the staff, all of these people work so hard for their groups, for this community, at sacrifice of their own interests. So thank you very much for having me here tonight, Jasmine. Thank you. I appreciate the invitation. I'm glad to be in a riding where LAMP is. One of the things I get to do in Ottawa is brag about all the great things in my riding, and LAMP is on the list of things I brag about. I do have a certificate for you. It says, as a Member of Parliament for Etobicoke Lakeshore, it gives me great pleasure to extend my congratulations and best wishes to you on the occasion of your 40th anniversary. For 40 years, LAMP has provided a valuable service to the residents of South Etobicoke. As a community stakeholder, you've also been a great partner to many other organizations in our community. I'm pleased to be here to celebrate the milestone with you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So congratulations.
Thank you, James. And up next is our Member of Provincial Parliament, Peter Milchin. Greetings from the
Thank you, Alicia, Jean, Jamie, Pamela Goff, our trustee. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thinking about coming here today, I was wondering to myself, and I was actually asking people, 40 years? Just 40 years? As a lifelong resident of the area, it was older than 40. I just thought you were always here, which is a testament to the profound impact that LAMP has had for 40 years on this community. I also remember as a kid going to LAMP for different services. Maybe we're in the same waiting room at the same time, Alicia. To me, when I look around this room, I also look around at the people that I grew up with, you know, literally as a person, but certainly as a community activist and as an elected official. And I can say sincerely, there was many of the people that I came across at LAMP who had started long before I did working in the community, from whom I learned about how to listen and how to engage and how to represent our interests. So I have a profound personal thank you to everybody that's been associated with LAMP for many years. So it's my pleasure as your MPP, not just to send you regular checks from Queen's Park, but also to bring you greetings from Premier Kathleen Wynne and all of my colleagues at Queen's Park on the occasion of the 40th anniversary kickoff. I'm not going to read everything in here, but certainly to all the boards of directors over the years, all the wonderful staff, the thousands and thousands of volunteers, the youth activists from SIA and from its precursors. Thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for everything that you continue to do. LAMP is the premier community health center in this province, and I'm confident that you will be for another 40 years and beyond. Thank you.
Pamela Goff, our Toronto District School Board Trustee. Would you like to say a few words?
So I just wanted to say congratulations to LAMP. I also echo the words of those who came before me in terms of my deep understanding of the importance of LAMP, in terms of its usefulness to the community, its many levels of service. And I know the Toronto District School Board very much appreciates LAMP and all the wonderful people working for it, and the SAYA group as well. Let's have a hand for the SAYA group. So congratulations on 40 years.
I'm Robin Salt, and building a healthy community and connecting our community are two key messages that LAMP uses in its efforts to improve health and well-being. Through health promotion and community initiatives, activities, workshops, events, programs, advocacy, and information, there's a lot, they do a lot, that build personal resources, we are healthier and happier. We continue to offer health education workshops on mental health and nutrition, two issues that are top of mind in our community. We continue to work on local issues like transportation, rapid urban development that stress our quality of life and our health and well-being. This is LAMP Community Health Center's approach: keep people healthy through education and prevention programs that improve their capacity and possibilities for the future. Health promotion linked to quality primary health care pushes health care costs down and improves our health and well-being. This model of care was the cornerstone that LAMP was built on 4 decades ago. We remain true to it today with many success stories here in this room, a testament to LAMP's importance in the community. We've already met a few of them between SAYA and all of our volunteers, etc. SAYA, the South Etobicoke Youth Assembly, now in its 17th year, winning countless awards, including advocacy and health promotion. The Remix project, which started out of LAMP as IC Visions more than a decade ago, now its own charitable nonprofit organization with centers in Chicago and elsewhere. Its founders are now doing big things internationally. Gavin Shepard is in the room, and Derek Drex, as well as are here to celebrate with us. Gavin is also a founding SAYA member, and Derek a major donor to the SAYA program. Thank you.
I just have the honor of sitting at my table with these guys from Remix. I just started speaking to them, and they're visiting us from Chicago. So why don't you stand up and let's give you a proper welcome. I work with youth at CAMH, so my heart goes out to you. Okay, what else do we do at LAMP? Well, we do a whole lot, and I sit on the Community Relations Committee, and it's a wonderful piece of LAMP that does some groundbreaking work. Speak to Jasmine if you want to join our flamboyant meetings and help us raise a ton of money this year. Anyway, moving on, what else does LAMP do? Conduct health promotion with workshops on stress, anxiety, resilience, anti-bullying. They're all huge issues right now, and they're an identified trend. As I say, I work in mental health, and I see it daily. And our youth are our future. Moving on, the Among Friends program is a model in achieving optimal wellness. And our literacy program changes lives. Harm reduction and its devoted staff help to save lives using respect, kindness, compassion, dignity, and I would say client-centered care. As well, today we celebrate 2 major successes: the Rathburn Area Youth, or RAY program, in Central Etobicoke, and our East Mississauga Community Health Center. 2 innovative projects responding to urgent community need. It was the United Way and the Ontario government, thank you, Peter, who called upon LAMP for its leadership and solid operational knowledge to make this happen. We thank you for continuing to believe in LAMP, why wouldn't you, while funding cuts continue, and that's a big one. And it gets harder for us to meet these needs, and they're not lessening, in fact, they're growing. Well, dollars are lessening. Please, I implore you to become a member, to donate when you can, and to help us to continue to serve this community for another 40 years. I will add here, in 1984, I had the blessing of working for Women's Habitat. I know you're in this room somewhere, as the aftercare coordinator. And that's when I was introduced to LAMP and took a client there for a psychotherapist by the name of Herb Hyman. And I learned then what a wonderful operation it is, never knowing I'd be here today. Continuing, our community health center model of care at LAMP, where people contribute to their community, where people connect and belong, where people work together for the bigger good, has proven its success. Help us convince government and policymakers that you support our work and our investment in our community. You can become a member online, or we have forms here today if you're not a member already. I thank you for celebrating with us this afternoon. We hope to see you soon. And speak to Jasmine if you want to belong to the Community Relations Committee. I'd love to see you there. Thank you for today.
Thank you, Lynn, Robin, and Zai. Now I'd like to introduce to you Gavin Shepherd, who grew up in the Lakeshore and started the IC Vision Project, which is now remixed through LAMP. Gavin, you're up.
Hi, super quick, I don't know how I got up here and Drex is managing to sit down, but we'll acknowledge Drex again one more time very quickly, the co-founder of IC Visions, Remix, and SEA, as well as a major donor. We just saw a video a few moments ago that really kind of tripped us out because it was a very much a blast in time to hear like 17 years old as SEA and then realizing IC Vision's 5-year anniversary started 17 years ago as well, and looking back at ourselves in that tape was really kind of a trip. Drex was making fun of me saying, man, you went from wearing like a t-shirt on your head to like a fade to long hair and to now having no hair on the top of your head and having a forced fade come into play. But it was really important for both of us to be here because it's really, I mean, LAMP has played such a huge foundational aspect of our lives. Not just in the programs that we started, but both of us as young men. Really, LAMP is the space that when we first came to it, I first came when I was in street level on Lakeshore and 8th Street. It was still on Lakeshore Boulevard West at the time. And a woman named Katie Boyle kind of welcomed me into that space and really helped me feel at home, helped me find a space that outside of my own home that was welcoming, where I could make friends, where I could feel like I could learn, where I could grow. And she very much became kind of a second mother to so many of us in the neighborhood. And from that kind of engagement, that initial engagement, you know, we started to grow and we started to imagine ourselves in that space. And where at first we were just accessing it, the confidence started to grow, where we started to imagine, well, what do we want to see in here? And how could it like reflect us better? How could it reflect us more authentically? And one of the major learnings that we learned from LAMP, from whether it was from Katie, whether it was from Jasmine, whether it was from Bill Worrell, whether it was from Russ Ford, Dot, Faye, all the other people that have taught us so much along the ways, it's been that if it's going to be for the community, it must be of the community. And then how do we ensure that it's of the community and not just from ourselves? So we started this process, this long journey of constantly listening, constantly reflecting, and trying to basically serve our community in a way that also serves ourselves. To be quite frank and quite honest, because our own goals were tied so much into this thing. So years later, we started the IC Visions project. It matured, it evolved, much under the leadership of Drex. We started the studio side. And then we had another opportunity to evolve again in 2006 for the Remix project. And again, LAMP stepped up in a major way, where we basically, as we know here in this room, 2005 was a very hard year for the city of Toronto. It was called the City of Gun, the Summer of the Gun. A lot of young people were getting killed. A lot of young people were doing damage on both sides of the trigger. And there was a huge outcry to do something, but there wasn't really an understanding of what. And so we had been placed in this kind of dubious reputation or due to his position of being frontline, working directly, and being connected to these young people. And there was a lot of interest to do more. How do we ramp that up? How do we ramp that up? And at the time, again, we were 23, 22 years old. We had no idea what we were doing. And it was through the trusteeship of LAMP that allowed us to then work with the City of Toronto, allowed us to work with Department of Canadian Heritage, allowed us to work with all these different ministries and different government bodies that would now take us seriously because LAMP said, no, these guys are doing something right. These guys are smart and we support them and we have their back. And so we started this thing, and as mentioned, it has become an official charity now, but for the first 3 years it was trusteed by LAMP, whether it was floating us funds, whether it was helping us think through difficult situations, navigate different relationships with mentors, but allowed us to grow to the point where we were finally able to stand on our own 2 feet and be able to walk into the world on our own as a full charity that now trustees other organizations in that same model, and that same idea of each one teach one. So as we're here today, like continuing to make moves in the world, as mentioned, Chicago is here. We just started a program in Chicago 3 years ago, again under the leadership of Drex, and now with Joey and Watsky as well. We continue to move through the world with the values, the principles, and the philosophies that were instilled in us as young people at LAMP. So whether it was through these experiences with Saya, whether it's through these experiences with IC Visions, or all the other things that Jasmine pressed us into and made us do that allowed us to grow into these young men that we are today, it's just been such a big part of who we are. So thank you to Russ, thank you to Bill World, thank you to Jasmine, to Dot, to Faye, to everybody that's been involved in this. Sincerely, like it's been an incredible thing for the City of Toronto. We just launched a 10-year report, which you can see on the remixproject.com. It was funded by OMDC to show the impact of the organization, but it really has been a huge part of our lives. So we just want to say that one more time, and thank you to everybody, and it's just an honor to be here celebrating with so many familiar faces.
Volunteers knocked on doors in the community, asking people exactly what kinds of services they wanted. And local residents, community leaders, some of them here today, and community partners created a vision. That vision became a reality through hard work and a passion for health equity and social justice, the values that still guide LAMP's work today. Art Lockhart knows a thing or two about grassroots work and a vision. He grew up in the Lakeshore and teaches at Humber College. Art has worked closely with LAMP for decades in social justice, and he even came to LAMP when he pitched his vision for the Gatehouse. Art is an inspiration and would like to share some of his thoughts about LAMP and its importance to the community today. Art Lockhart.
How do you hold the microphone? To be really cool? I'll do like this, right? Just back, can you come back here for 1 second? Please come back now.
I don't know about the mic thing.
Okay, so you may not remember this, but we were in a little tiny room many years ago having a cup of coffee. And as we were finishing the conversation, you turned to me and you said, you know what? It's good to live life like a poet. I love that phrase, living life like a poet, right? There's no money involved in poetry, but there's a lot of magic and bliss. And so that stayed in me all those years ago. So I just wanted to say, thank you.
Shout out to my father and my mother, because they're the ones that drop those gems on me all the time. You know? It's a marathon, not a race.
And eventually your hair that you keep losing is going to be just like me. You're on your way.
That's a level of clean that I aspire to.
Okay. Two other names, just really very quickly. Mona and Shanika. Can you come in here for a minute? Mona, there she is. Mona, come here. Where's Shanika? I just saw her a second ago. She took. Oh, there you are, right. Could you just come up here, this is real quick. This is only going to take 4 hours max. The reason I'm inviting them up here is because when we walked in the building, you come up the stairs to this event about LAMP. What I noticed were 2 unbelievably invitational, smiling faces. And it made you feel really sort of wanted to be in the room, really safe. And I think that's a feature of LAMP. So could we just say to them, thank you for being right there.
First as somebody who benefited, because I had a 2.5-year-old son at the time, from the toy library at LAMP. And I'd like to apologize to LAMP, we still haven't returned the toy. My son is now an engineer, so maybe he was inspired by it. I was very privileged, along with my friend Pete Pownell, who actually recruited me to the board in the late 90s. I was very privileged to be a witness, if perhaps not an instigator, of some of the most important changes in LAMP's history. One of which was the switch from first our founding executive director, Joe Leonard, who was a great man, and I know his wife is with us today, to an acting executive director, Doc Wiggin, who is with us today, and then to our second permanent executive director, who I'm so glad is still here and who has thrived and who has led this organization to so many great things in his tenure, Russ Ford. And I know you'll be hearing from Russ later, but I think he definitely deserves a round of applause. As do his predecessors, present in spirit, if not in body. I was also privileged to be on the board of directors when LAMP opened its new extension, which I believe is still called, or was originally called the Joe Leonard Wing. I was part of the LAMP board at a time when CEO was starting, when IC Visions was starting, and by the way, I never want to have to follow Gavin and Art again, because they're both much better speakers than I am. I was president at a time when I think LAMP added the word CHC to its name because I think it was important for us to identify as a community health center with all that meant. We also survived our first accreditation by the Association of Ontario Community Health Centers, and I believe there have been a number since. Again, LAMP is a leader in the field of community health centers, and I don't think that has ever been something that is questioned. In fact, I think it is a sense that has strengthened over the last 40 years. That LAMP, that many people in the city, even people associated with other CHCs, when they think of the model for CHCs, think of LAMP. And I think that's because LAMP really set the bar so high, so very high, in terms of the ability of an organization like this to build a healthy community. And that's what LAMP has done for 40 years, and that's why I was very privileged to be a member of the board during some of our significant events, and why I'm extremely proud and privileged to be here today. So thank you very much.
Now we'd like to pay tribute to some of the founders of LAMP and share a story on how it all started. Ruth Greer is a former councillor and former cabinet minister in the Ontario government. She was also the Ontario Minister of Health at one time. Ruth is a tireless community champion who, with others, helped to make the vision of a community health centre a reality. Please help me welcome Ruth Greer.
Thank you very much. Usually one does the history at the beginning of an event, but it's my privilege to look back after all these 40 years of LAMP's success at what started as a bit of a dream with really no, I think it's clear to say, recognition of what it could become. And so it's very satisfying to be here after those 40 years and to just hear how wonderfully that dream has evolved and how much has happened in the interim. It really, the whole success represents the commitment and the vision and hard work of volunteers, as you've heard so often. It's made a difference in the lives of so many Lakeshore residents, and it was very much a product of the 60s. In 1967, the Lakeshore municipalities in Long Branch, New Toronto and Mimico were all amalgamated with the township of Etobicoke. The Lakeshore independence was lost and the municipalities weren't terribly happy. Don't think Etobicoke was terribly happy to get us. We had a lot of industrial assessment, and so the taxes were welcomed, but we lacked a lot of community services. We didn't have the same facilities that there were in Middle Etobicoke. But given the due, the city and Metro then embarked upon an examination of what was needed in the lakeshore. And so a report was produced in 1968 that said it was a planning study, and it was done by the Metro Social Planning Council, a very well-respected consultant now, Wilson Head, if he's still with us. It was called the Lakeshore District Social Study. That came out in 1968. And it had a number of recommendations about recreation and parks and all sorts of things, but two were particularly important for LAMP. One was that there should be an information and service centre in the lakeshore, so that people could get information about all the government services. And number two, that there should be a community service centre that would bring health and social services together. So this was 1968. And that was a very progressive recommendation that went on to explain the values and the merits of having such a centre. But it was the 60s, and community development and planning and social action were very much on people's minds. We had the Etobicoke Social Planning Council, which had monthly lunches with speakers on social and social development issues. So there was a forum where the kinds of needs that had been shown in the social study could be talked about. We had one of our own, Nora Panau, on the executive of the Social Planning Council for many years, and they began to organize people into thinking, okay, what do we do about these recommendations? And in 1967, Humber College had come to the lakeshore. Just starting out, it was in the lakeshore before it was in the North End. You should always remember that. And as we talk about Humber, we were the beginning. It was in the old James S. Bell School that is now the Thomas Berry Daycare Centre, and then moved into what had been the Lakeshore Teachers College at the corner of 23rd Street. Anyway, in 1971, Humber College launched a 2-year project. They hired 3 activists, community developers, social workers, one of whom was Mike Quiggin. Okay, Dot. Another was Bill Phipps, who went on to be a United Church minister, and Sharon Hillier, who worked in the Recreation Department for a long time. And the project was 2 years, and they were to work with the community and with their students in the social work program in doing community organizing and outreach. They rented a small store on Lakeshore Boulevard. And in 71, they applied for a Canada Works grant because they had found there were a lot of senior citizens living in the lakeshore who needed services, weren't getting help, couldn't manage on their own. And so they started a program to do help for senior citizens, gardening, household help, meals, out of their storefront. And that was Storefront Humber, which we still have and which has grown exponentially as has LAMP. Paul Hung was one of the people I think hired to work out of their storefront office. There were already in the lakeshore for a long time community resident associations. There was the Lakefront Owners Association, which still exists for people who own property on the lake, and there was the Lakeshore Ratepayers Association. But they were both really involved in planning and residential things. And so a number of volunteers decided, working with the Humber students, that it was time we had something called the Lakeshore Community Council. Ruth Mabel, who's here today, was the secretary of that first community council. And my husband Terry, who unfortunately was unable to be here today, was the chair. And they had a wide and a disparate group of people, and they began to pick up on those recommendations about needing a community multi-service centre for health and social services. In fact, in '72, they organised a community meeting to discuss future plans, and to that meeting came a resolution from Doug Stringer, who was the minister of St. Paul's United, and Mrs. Everson, whose husband ran the drugstore in Long Branch in those days. And they brought a motion that said we should create a health and multi-service centre in the lakeshore. And of course the motion passed. So an interim board was appointed, and in 1973 there was another public meeting, and LAMP became incorporated and began some serious planning to become an institution. They had acquired space at 185 Fifth Street. Art said it was the police station, as he remembered. It had also become the location, it was no longer the police station then, it had become the location for the Metro Welfare Services. So they were there when LAMP got its foot in the door. And like many things, once LAMP got its foot into the building, LAMP grew and everyone else got pushed out until it became LAMP's building. And they were incorporated. And Leslie Lawler was another person who had been very involved in the beginnings. And her husband Pat was our MPP. And so Pat persuaded Premier Davis to come and be the person who would open LAMP's doors on March the 2nd, 1976. And here we are 40 years later. LAMP is of course very innovative and provided not just social services, but it was also seen as a model and example for other communities that you've already heard some reference to. But I wanted to tell you something that has never been told about me and LAMP. When LAMP opened, some of the first people hired were nurse practitioners. We'd really never heard of nurse practitioners. We knew they worked in the north in underdeveloped areas, but they were not particularly well known. But thanks to LAMP and their nurse practitioners, I'm still here 40 years later and relatively healthy. And then, to my surprise, and the surprise of a lot of people, in 1993 I became the Minister of Health. And one day I was being briefed about some plans for the reform of primary care in Ontario. And I said, how will we be using nurse practitioners? Total silence. Only then did I learn that funding for nurse practitioners' education had dried up in 1983. And when I checked the nurse practitioners' website the other day, that website says that when that legislation came through, they had been lobbying for it for 25 years. So without LAMP, that wouldn't have happened. So what does the future hold? I mean, we've all heard how successful LAMP has been, but I know that there are in community health centre circles these days some concerns about the legislation that passed in December called the Patients First Act. If you ask Russ and others, they will say there never has been legislation so badly misnamed. Sorry about that, Peter. But it really doesn't seem to be putting patients first. It's the amalgamation of the local health institute, the LINs, and the CCACs. And the CCACs at least paid lip service to being community-based. The LINs don't do that. But the Association of Community Health Centres has been very effective in getting some changes made as the legislation went through. And one of the goals of the legislation now, allegedly, is that they participate in the development and implementation of health promotion strategies in cooperation with primary health care services, health service, public health services, and community-based services to support population health improvement outcomes. How that translates into action remains to be seen. But LAMP, as we know and heard, and as we have all been part of, is there because of community support and community work and contributions. And I mention this legislation just in case, in the future, we all need to be mobilized again, because it's never over until it's over. And I know that when LAMP calls, we will all be there to do what we can to make sure that what was given to the lakeshore by those early pioneers 40 years ago is there for our children and my grandchildren in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for that great history of LAMP and also for your inspiration and your leadership. Your passion for social justice and tenacity to achieve better solutions is an example to us all. Time now to share a few more short stories on the impact of LAMP and how it's inspiring young people to become active citizens of the world. Dornell Phillips is on his way to realizing a dream in the world of IT and marketing. Leonis Forrester is on her way to helping people who have experienced troubled lives to turn things around. And Bree Gardner, 16 years old, part of our newest generation, is shaking things up at City Hall to improve public transit. So I'd like to invite Dornell, Leonis, and Bree up to say a few words.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Wow, 40 years. For some people, 40 years maybe seem like yesterday, some a lifetime, some people ancient time. I fall somewhere in the latter. But yeah, LAMP has been a great resource for myself and many of the SEA youths. I would classify myself as part of the second generation, like the second generation of SEA. I came after the 2000s, we moved out and we moved in. Basically, when I joined LAMP, I was still fairly new to Canada. I'm from Guyana. Still trying to navigate my way into Canadian society and understand how things work. And LAMP was a resource to help me navigate that, especially SEA, where it helped me develop a lot of the skills which I utilize today, and it opened a lot of doors for me to take these opportunities and utilize them for personal development and growth. Through that, I've gotten a lot of things in Jasmine support, whether it be supporting you and pushing you outside of your comfort zone. They say that's where the growth begins. And a lot of times we did things where you weren't necessarily sure you could do, but by taking part in it, that's where you gain those skills, and those that's where a lot of us grew and learned how to be not only strong individuals, but confident individuals who could navigate a lot of spaces which when we first started, we didn't think we could operate, because a lot of us weren't necessarily the student council A+ students, but we knew we had the capacity to do something great if we were given the opportunity to. And thanks to Jasmine, a lot of the ones who came before us helped us realize a lot of those potentials we all had. And I speak for myself as well, all the SEA, the ones that were coming after me, that LAMP and SEA has been a pushing force, a motivation force for a lot of youth development, a lot of youth growth. And even though LAMP is small, it's been an incubator for a lot of things. You see the new extension of Saga, diabetes, and you have remix, which is an offshoot of that. So and all you can speak to it, because a lot of you are here because of the many things LAMP has done in the community and affected your life. So that's all I want to say, and that's it.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Leonis. So I started back with SEA 2010, so maybe 8 years ago. I started off as Ruckus. Some of you may or may not know Ruckus. We have it every year. It's our annual fashion and talent showcase. I started off as a model for about 2 years. Then I started to take on a leadership role. So I started to be the head of fashion, which involved running rehearsals with the models every Wednesday, contacting all the clothing places that we were gonna get. Because of SEA, I first started when I actually first moved to Toronto from Hamilton, so I wasn't too sure about the area. I was brand new to Lakeshore. I actually met one of my very best friends who's actually over there, Shantea, 8 years. And I do think that SEA is a reason why my friendship is still strong and going with Shantea. I ended up graduating Lakeshore with over 400 volunteer hours, and because of that, I ended up getting the Dave Dunmore Memorial Scholarship, which is from the 22 Police Division. After that, when I started going to school for George Brown, I did Assaulted Women and Children's Counselor/Advocate. I actually got the Joe Leonard Scholarship a couple years ago. Shout out to Russ for that one. And then now I'm currently at Humber in my second year. I'm doing community and justice services. It's funny because I was having a talk with Jasmine and Chelsea earlier, and I was saying how first I was doing social work and counseling, but in the end it always goes back to the community and giving back to the community. So I mean, here I am, still a part of SEA, always helping out Jasmine. She's been a big influence. LAMP has been the biggest influence in my life ever. I always have been saying this, and I will say this forever. I don't know where I would be if I never had LAMP or SEA in my life. Thank you.
My name is Bree Gardner. I'm 16 years old. And like to me, 40, I can't even conceptualize 40 years. Like, that is more than double. Like, that doesn't seem real.
Make us feel bad.
I volunteer at City Hall. I'm the transit lead on the Toronto Youth Cabinet. I also work at Queen's Park in an MPP's office. But I also have a job at LAMP. My tag says volunteer, but I'm getting paid to do this. I do a lot of things. Like I'm constantly busy, and part of that is because of LAMP, which I'll get to in a minute. But out of everything I do, probably what's most important to me is the stuff that I do at LAMP. So I work at SEA. People keep gesturing over to that table and saying SEA is really great, but we aren't really talking about what SEA is. So South Etobicoke Youth Assembly, it is like it is a space for youth 13 and 19, and then sometimes we get our alumni that don't want to leave even though we're trying to push them out the door. It is a space for us. We have workshops, we have March break camps, we have summer camps, and we have Rockets, which is our big fashion, talent, advocacy showcase. June 24th at the Assembly Hall. Please buy tickets. We would love to see everyone there. A year and a half ago was when I started with SEA, and I was very different from where I see myself now. I didn't really have any connections to this community. Even though I grew up here my entire life, I didn't really know anyone. I go to school up at Bloor and Runnymede, so it's a little out of the way. I didn't really have any friends in it from my middle school. I didn't really know anyone in this area. I didn't have an appreciation for it. But then I started going to the weekly workshops at SEA, and eventually I started getting more involved to the point where there were jokes that I was an unofficial, unpaid staff member because I was doing all of the things that the staff were doing, I just wasn't getting any money. So, thanks, Jasmine. Is she even in the room? Did I just? Yeah. Oh yeah. But now I do have a job. There's a lot of things that positive ways that LAMP has impacted me, other than just my paycheck, although that is a big one. But I think that aside from some of the friends I have over here, this table of the cool people in the room, not that everyone else isn't cool, but we're the hip, we're the young ones. I have a lot of anxiety. I'm not sure if that's been being translated into a lot of the things I'm saying, but this time, 2 years ago, I would not be doing something like that. You know, I remember just about a year ago, sitting in on a workshop, and I kept saying things. During like icebreakers, I'd be talking a lot, and I remember thinking, wow, like that's not me. Like, and so LAMP really has changed me in a lot of ways. I'm doing a lot of things that I don't think I would have been able to do like a year and a half ago before I started doing this stuff. Like Cece, who sang "O Canada" really wonderfully earlier, her and I are co-producing Ruckus this year. That's like, we have a $10,000 budget for this year, and someone decided that we were the ones to entrust that money. Obviously someone sees our potential, right? The last thing, and probably the most important thing that LAMP has given me is it's helped me realize the significance of community. And it's really helped me realize how much I value my community. So I want to go into politics. And like you laugh, but you're like I'm the future Prime Minister. And again, people laugh, but just wait. it's stuff like SAYA that has helped me realize that I can do that. It's set me really in a way to be an advocate, and it's helped me realize that government and politics, it's more than just drafting legislation and getting through different like having ideas and setting them forward. Every politician is representing their constituents, and that's something that gets overlooked, I think. But community is really a very important part of it, and I want this community to be a part of my life and a part of my career. And without them, I don't know if I would have realized how important that is to me. So thank you.
That's 1 year older than you, so.
Yeah.
So, it was, I'm gonna pull up my notes. Sorry, they're a bit long, but I got 40 years to go through here. Anyways, it's certainly rather nostalgic to see a lot of old friends and people who've been associated with over the years. I'm putting on the slides, there was a picture of my son in the toy library. He was probably 2 at the time. He's now 33 and expecting his own child now. And so, and I remember too, I remember Derek and Gavin coming into my office the first time and saying, we want to start a hip hop project. And of course, I didn't want to seem uncool, so I'm like, sure, why not? Why wouldn't we do that? Yeah, anyways. So, there's been a lot of comments about age and 40 and how old that is. But I want to tell you, age is very relative, and no better example than what happened to me yesterday. I was on Facebook, and a friend of mine sent me a link where you could answer questions, and it would tell you what your real age was. So, of course, as no surprise, my age came out to be 27. Right? Okay, 5 hours later, 5 hours later, I'm going to the movies at the Queensway in Islington. And I go and I buy my ticket, and I'm walking to the theater, and I look at the ticket, and they gave me the seniors rate. Anyways. So I started thinking about what I would say today, and I thought I would, 40 years is an accomplishment. I mean, when I was a kid, some of the bedrock organizations, Simpsons, Eaton's, I mean, they're no longer there. My dad worked at Simpsons for 25 years, and then one day he was told that place is closing down, so that's that. But 40 years ago rather, we had things like the birth of the CN Tower, the Blue Jays, the Muppets, Family Feud. How about that one? 40 years. And of course we had a couple of new healthcare issues like first Ebola virus and Legionnaire's disease. But if you want to get nostalgic for a moment, we also had elected president Jimmy Carter. And doesn't that feel good to say that? And of course, 40 years ago, led by Bobby Orr, the Leafs won their 4th consecutive Stanley Cup. Now, I know some of you, Jean-Luc, who a big Montreal Canadiens fan, was probably wondering how the Leafs won the Cup 4 times in the 1970s. Wasn't that Montreal?
Yeah.
Well, I know if you go to the hockey books, you will see the Montreal Canadiens in the books. You will see that Bobby Orr never played from Toronto. But I'm dealing with alternative facts. If you believe the Leafs won the Cup, they won the Cup. That's right. How many believe the Leafs won the Cup? All right. There you go. So, I think when I look back at LAMP, I think the one word I would use would be resilient, because we've had a lot of positive talk about that, but there have been pitfalls to the way. The P in LAMP stands for project. We still keep that name, and it was a 1-year project. It was a 1-year experimental project that Premier Robarts initiated based on a report by Dr. John Hastings, who was the head of medicine at UNT's medical school. And Dr. Hastings developed this new kind of healthcare model, which included physicians on salaries, which included bringing services together, having a community run. And it was a 1-year project, and I think it's fair to say that a healthcare system is probably not the most liberal system. Okay. And so there was a lot of opposition, particularly from the OMA. And many CHCs were in fact closed by pressure on the government. But LAMP wasn't. We were largely maintained, largely because of the pressure the community put on. Ruth was certainly involved with that. And also, of course, Joe Leonard, our former executive director, and Pat Lawler, who was our MPP at the time, and LAMP survived. And it was close. But although we survived, it didn't necessarily mean it was good times, because the money was pretty scant for a long time, because although we were around, government really wasn't funding us very well. In fact, LAMP staff used to go to garage sales on the weekends, and that's how LAMP was furnished. And when I came in 1999, some of that stuff was still there. I said, I think it's time to get rid of the garage sales. And of course, there have been other times. During the administration of Frank Miller, his provincial budget did call for the elimination of community health centers. And the only reason it didn't happen was because the Minister of Health at the time, Dennis Timbrell, his wife was on the board of South Rivervale Community Health Center. She convinced her husband, who convinced the Premier, to keep CHCs. That's how public policy was developed. And of course, then we come to the Mike Harris government, and I will apologize to Tom. Tom keeps saying, Russ, get over the Mike Harris government. Stop talking about it. But anyways, Tom's a former board member of that. And we were going to be downloaded to the municipality, to public health. It didn't happen, but again, it was one of those close saves. So the theme, I think, in why LAMP survived is largely due to the volunteers, the resilience of the organization, because we have maintained that commitment that people have to LAMP. And I just want to take a moment to ask everybody who has volunteered in LAMP to put up their hand. Okay, now let's see who's been the longest. How many people, put up your hand if you've been volunteering for 5 or more years. Okay, let's go 10. 15. Okay, we got, okay, 20. Okay, well anyways, we got, okay, Jasmine. And Jasmine was the head of the toy library, which I, had to return the toys to, or else one of those in the head. Anyways, that's right. So, another factor, I think, in the evolution of LAMP was leadership, and I'm speaking specifically about Joe Leonard, who was, for our first 23 years, he was the leader of LAMP. Sue, his wife, is here somewhere. I don't know where she is.
She had to leave.
Oh, she had to leave? Okay. She knew I was speaking? Okay. I think Joe and I were very close friends. I think Joe would admit that there's a lot of times he really didn't know what he was doing. And, but Joe always knew the direction we were going. Yeah. He may not have known the specifics and how to get there, but he knew what the soul of LAMP should be. And so Joe's motto was, LAMP builds a healthy community. And by that he meant it's here for all members of the community. And we're working with the community and we're advocating for the community. So it was very much a community-directed organization, and I hope still is. And it was very much rooted in partnership and advocacy. And along, of course, with providing the very best in health social. We know, for example, that the #1 healthcare problem in this country is poverty. There is no factor that influences healthcare greater than poverty. And poverty is also intertwined with issues of race and things like that. So if we really want to do something about poverty, let's raise the minimum wage. Let's increase welfare benefits. That would probably do more for healthcare than any system. Now, Ruth mentioned earlier about patients first. And I wasn't going to talk about it, but since it's been opened up, I will. One of the things about patients first is that it allows the LHIN on 14 days notice to kick out the board of directors and the senior management and appoint a supervisor and take over the organization. Now, I think that's particularly draconian, especially since, although we are LHIN funded, we are not totally LHIN funded. And I'm not saying this will happen to us, but you have to wonder why anybody would want that level of authority. Now, this happened in Quebec. The CLSAs are still there, but they used to be community government. They're not anymore. They're merged in hospitals. And as we are here today, there are 3 community health centers in Ontario, in Ignace, Thunder Bay, and Barrie, which are now being pushed towards merging into a hospital. And a hospital is a good thing, but a hospital is not a CHC. It is not community governed. It does not have programs like SAM. So when Bruce says some days we may need to rally the troops, we may need to rally the troops about patients first. Now, I don't want to end on a doom and gloom note because this is a party, and I've got some good news to talk about too. Last Thursday, we were given the status of an anchor agency by the United Way, which means permanent funding for the I can't recall how long we've been at the United Way agency, probably about 12 years. I think we started with about $50,000 as first grant, and I think we're now over $400,000. United Way provides programs to youth and things like that. So, you know, when I had a quizzical face when Derek and Gavin were asking me about a hip-hop program, well, if I got some United Way money, I guess we can do that. So, the other thing I want to talk about a little too is about a new innovation that we are doing, and we're developing a social enterprise. And what we're doing is we're actually in the software business. We are creating medical software for community health. And we're doing that for a couple of reasons. One is there is no software out there like it. What we've typically had is private doctors' medical chart software, and somehow they stick a few pieces in and say it's a community health software. So we're actually developing from a community point of view, which we believe in the longer term will demonstrate a lot of the value of community health centers. And it has the potential of bringing in a fair amount of money to LAMP. So, you know, when programs like SAYA are not funded because they're not considered to be health in the very traditional sense of the word, we will have money in the future going forward. I hope that we will be able to provide a lot of the services and even more than we're providing today. So that's a very exciting project. Our software is rolling out in about 3 weeks, and it's looking pretty good. So that's good news. And so finally, I just want to make a comment about everybody who I've come to notice. I mean, it's obvious that my time in LAMP is coming near an end. And it has been a great experience for me, all the people that I have met. The staff have been great, you know, staff can make or break my job, and they've certainly made it in so many ways. And certainly to the board, we've had so many board members here today from very different times in my 17 years, and I've certainly been very appreciative of the support that I get currently and have had in the past from previous board members. So thank you very much. Finally, Jasmine would have something to say to me if I didn't remind people about the auction. It's 5 minutes to go. And I would also like to thank Alicia for her work today and hosting this event. And of course, you've done an amazing job as always. Done a great job in the Words of Merit every year. And we thank her for her ongoing support tonight.